Ladies and gentlemen, people, friends, fans of Tommy Wiseau's cult hit movie, The Room, welcome. Thank you. Usually, this is the time of the talk we tell you to turn your phones down low, turn off the notifications. But not in this talk today. No, today we celebrate the notification. Email is what we do in this talk. But if your phone rings, cut that person out of your life. It's 2018. Please ask them to email you.
Yeah, but do fill in the do fill in the evaluation at the end.
Yes.
My name is Adriaan de Jongh. I'm a game designer, best known for Hidden Folks, Fingal, and Bounden. Who are you?
I'm Ben Myres, game designer, email evangelist, and making Play-Doh platform assemblance, and former Myres Johannesburg program manager.
Whoa.
Wow.
I sort of joked about giving this talk to Ben and to the people of Independent Game Summit, and we ended up getting stories and advice for more than 40 people, platform contacts, journalists, developers, YouTubers, live streamers. In the end, I think we ended up with something like 14,000 words. It's a lot of data.
Yeah, we even got our friend Eric Sam at BuzzFeed to write us about the techniques they use at BuzzFeed to grab attention. Yeah, we got so much good advice in this talk that it's more we could actually fit into this time. So we'll be publishing a big article later. Today's just a selection.
Yeah, so today what we'll talk about in the next 30 minutes is 6 categories of like sort of feedback we got, advice, stories, with 1 to 4 takeaways each, and at the end an email manifesto that you, I think, already have in your hands. What's very important to note is that a lot of the stuff in this presentation is a sort of a mix between paraphrasing and screenshots from actual results. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, and advice might conflict. This is not a how-to guide of how to email. It's a box of experimental/advanced techniques for you to use at home.
Yes. Email manifesto, email festo. Okay, so yeah, we reached out to a lot of very busy people to kind of sort of understand why people respond to certain emails and not to other emails. And in this category, we actually didn't get a lot of stories, but we got a lot of really good insight. And to start off answering that question, we get a little bit of a philosophy by Robin Unicki, who said that people you have never met can heap labor on you just by pressing send. But the other way around is also true. You can heap labor on someone just by pressing send. So email gives people instant access to each other without any repercussions. Think about that. Most of the takeaways, I think, in this talk will have a relationship with this idea.
And so we went about asking, how do you deal with lots of email? And unanimously, the answer was poorly. Poorly, poorly, poorly. And we got so many different kinds of emails, formats, approaches, and perspectives, and everyone tries to deal with email in their own different way. But because everyone deals with email terribly, awfully, we have to make sure our craft is perfected and we stand out. One journalist even told us their inbox is in ruins.
Yeah, so one good example of how a console contact of ours and Kate Gray, journalist, how they deal with email is that they mark some people as important contacts, and all the other people, if they receive emails from those people, those mails will be grayed out, and they will more quickly scan those emails. So that's one way to deal with a lot of emails. And another way was how Rami Ismail deals with emails. We all know him. He gets about 100 speaker requests per hour, I've heard. And he deals with that amount of emails mostly through his autoresponder. In his autoresponder, there's a bunch of like new email addresses, and you have to resend your email to one of those addresses. If you do, it actually goes to the inbox he checks daily. But if you don't, you'll be in a list of like 10,000 email addresses he quickly scans every other week. So with so many emails, he needs this structure. And if you don't help him stick to this structure, he really cannot spend time on your email. And this is paraphrasing. If you don't read my autoresponder and stick to the structure, your email is probably not worth his time. So this is the mindset you need to get into.
Yeah, and the takeaway is really help others who receive lots of email deal with your email. This is the mindset you need to be in. And kind of building on that, we need to think about the fact that emails aren't letters, right? There's no need for formality. Emails are real-life conversations. Emails are sent instantly and can be responded to instantly. There's no need for a hello in like your email thread, really. There's no need for a look forward to your reply. It adds nothing to the conversation. There's no need for niceties, no need for chit-chats, because you don't need to wait for the letter to arrive. It's instant. It's a different medium. So the takeaway here is really calm down with formalities. Emails don't need all that extra fat.
Nope, they definitely do not. One thing a lot of busy people told us as well was that the very easiest way to get blocked or muted is to send shitty reminder emails. Now, one of them said, don't freak out after 2 days of not hearing anything back. Apparently, it's really that bad. People send another email the next day. Don't do that, apparently. But what they also said was, if you ask why they didn't reply, that's like really the no-go territory. If you ever send reminders, do not ask about any of that. But there's a flip side to this.
There is. There's a contrast. One mysterious console platform holder told us, people who don't send reminder emails maybe don't care enough. They don't want to be on this console. That is a direct quote.
So,
the takeaway is?
Takeaway here is, definitely do send that reminder, but send it after a week, maybe another week if there's still no response. Definitely do send them. Show them that you care. These fuckers. Okay.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting things we found out about, especially talking to platform contacts, is about this, like SEOing your emails. Like, platform contacts get so many emails that you need to think about how they search and look for them. So don't keep replying to the same thread over and over with new questions and make searching harder. And yeah, it's just not needed. Like, people need to be able to find your email in your inbox.
Yeah, busy people.
Very
busy people problems. Yeah, and in the same area, don't also start a new thread for the same thing. They say they get lost as hell. They stop remembering which studio, developer, game. If you can imagine, you get 1,000 emails a day. These kinds of problems are actually a thing, and the same goes for like. This is not actually another reason to stick to one thing in a thread, because a lot of things get forwarded internally.
Yeah. So the takeaway here is one thread, one topic. Don't start threads on with the same topic, and also don't inject new topics into the same thread.
Yeah, okay. So that's the first category. Second, subject line.
Subject line. This is important. And to sort of speak about how important it can be is Thomas Reisinger, a PR professional, went to a talk by a rock, paper, shotgun journalist at EGX. And after seeing his talk, he sent him an email with this subject line. Question about your EGX talk. And then the email subsequently pitched him his game and asked no questions about his EGX talk. But the editor approved this cheeky approach because he, even though the content had nothing to do with it, it got him to actually read the email.
Right. So we started wondering, do journalists indeed have a trigger? Something that if you add it to the subject line, they will always open it. And there was one particular journalist, Kate Gray, who had very specific triggers. The first one.
Hello.
The reason for this is that usually when friends email each other, it's sort of like weird and I have that. It's weird and awkward, so they just come up with the first thing they come up with for the subject line, and usually that is hello. So this really works. Second thing.
Is Kate Gray her name in the subject line?
Yeah, it's a little bit freaky.
A bit
I would
weird.
say.
Yeah. Experiment.
But then the third thing that she said was really interesting.
And that's emojis.
Yes.
And having something personalized in the subject line really helps a lot. Chloe Rad, an IGN journalist, also told us if you have something personalized in the subject line, it'll help you stand out from all those emails as well.
Right. There's another thing that you need to think about when you're writing subject lines, because some developers, some people, they read their they read their email on their phones.
Yeah, so be careful.
Yeah, so think about that.
And kind of harkening back to what we spoke about before, make your subject lines search friendly and include the game or company name, again, to help them find you in their inbox.
Yeah. Yeah, so subject line is the first thing people see. We all know that. It's there always in bold when you open the email, or even before you open the email. It's kind of like a first sentence. So it's also a place where you can sort of hint towards your call to action in the subject line. This is what people who are busy also really wanted. So the takeaway here is that your subject line has to be perfect.
Perfect. You've got to think about your triggers, you've got to think about your length, you've got to think about your SEO, and you have to think about it as part of the content of your email. Your subject line is the tip of your email iceberg. If it's not expressive or interesting, the rest of your email literally doesn't matter because no one will see it.
Yes, so perfect subject lines. Third category, content. So I think one of the journalists we asked about this, about emails, said that she actually used, painful truth, usually skims email in 2 to 3 seconds. That is not a lot of time. And I think there's a really good example here.
Yeah, so you really got to get to the point. Our friend Jacob Koisiel was looking for an artist for his game Little Alchemy 2, and he received over 100 applications for this post. But the email that worked in getting the job was this one. Check it. I can make icons. This is literally the artist he hired for this game out of 100 applications. This is all you need to get your point across.
Very effective email.
Very effective.
So here's also a direct quote from a platform contact. We really appreciate your enthusiasm for your game, but we're actually more interested in hearing what your game actually is. So it's important that you find ways to just talk about what your game is about and sort of cut all the fluff. And there's a lot of ways you can go about that.
Yeah. You really want to try keep that like 3-sentence maximum in your email because you want to have one hyperlink per an email and you want to keep your intro very short. And every email is like an elevator pitch. You need to get people to ask you questions to get you interested. Your email is like your first foot in your door. It's not supposed to have this bulking, huge pile of information in it. So try not to ask multiple questions in the same message because, nobody wants a pen pal either.
Direct quotes from one
Direct
of the
quotes.
None of them want pen pals. So yeah, get to the point real quickly, something people said, have a clear call to action, know very well what you want, and also try to say that in the first 2 lines of your email. All the important information should be in those first 2 lines. Probably you shouldn't have more than 2 lines.
Yeah, just channel Judge Judy. Just get to the point as quickly as possible. The takeaway here really is that short is not short enough. It can always be shorter.
Yeah. So another thing you can do with your content of your game, because thinking back of the 2-3 seconds people will scan your email, very painful, is have images. And this is a comic by Joe Mirabella, who instead of writing any text or like hypertext text, he just had an image sort of like comic. Very interesting, very cool. Of course, you can immediately see and know what it is. Itay Kieran did a sort of similar thing where he made a bunch of memes which caught people's attention. And these apparently were very, very successful emails. But yeah, if we talk to platform contacts who receive a lot of pitches, they usually advise to have one image that shows all the things.
Yeah. But the other side to this is not to use too many images, because this is a paraphrase. I'm not here to look at your images, bro. And if you do use images, don't put them at the top. You still want that intro, and then people can see what's happening. But what's better than a single image? We all know the answer. This is very obvious. GIFs. We know this. Because GIFs autoplay, videos don't. Downloading games takes time. GIFs are instant. But GIFs might also not load in certain clients, for inbox clients. So you have to be careful. Try it at home. Yeah. And the takeaway here is
probably stick to one image. Yep. But make sure that one image, if you're doing a pitch or you can use an image to convey what you want, make sure it just explains everything, gameplay, art style, all those kinds of things.
But on the flip side, please don't use images in signatures. Don't do it, because email is not a freaking 90s forum.
It's absolutely cringeworthy what sometimes people still do. And this is an email I sent a couple days ago. This is the kind of stuff, it's just horrible. I'm just replying to an email thread, right? And I immediately sent 13 attachments with it. Okay. So short is actually not the only answer.
It is not. You can go big.
You can go big. Your email has to be interesting. And that is something that the Inkle team, the makers of 80 Days, found, where they got an email from this woman called Anastasia, and it's don't read this. We'll actually read it with you because this woman is incredible.
This is an amazing story.
She said, "My life was mostly about survival in extreme situations."
Political persecution in Russia.
She has dated 2 of the princes of Saudi Arabia.
Sheikhs of Dubai.
And other interesting men. 2 kidnappings.
Illegal imprisonment in Guatemala.
Torture for information and other dramatic events.
But she's still building her career as a model and scientist, owning a psychology laboratory.
A TV production company.
And
an academy.
Yeah. And she has 2 questions for the Inkle team.
How much could you pay me in royalties for the writing? And which genre you think is more sellable? This is a pretty good email. But also because she's a very interesting person.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't respond because the story seemed utterly mad.
But it could work for you. It could work.
Yes. And actually, also an interesting angle was this email that Nikoli Barbecue, which is an awesome name, best known for Move or Die, got, which is from some dude in Ukraine who gave people with beards discount, but he also gave people who could answer 3 questions about games a free key, and he wanted Nicolai to actually send him keys. Now,
unfortunately, it was a scam. It's maybe obvious, but we're guessing the shop exists, but the keys were just sold online.
Yeah, too bad.
But it was interesting.
Yes, and I mean, they responded to this, so it works. So having something interesting to say, having an interesting approach to your email is, I think, very important.
Yeah, you really want to think about approaching, your stories and marketing from multiple angles. Don't necessarily just pitch your game. Pitch interesting things about your scene and your country, everything. We heard from a lot of journalists talking about this, that actually they want to hear from more women and people of color, developers, about their games and their work and their process and everything like that. I myself pitch a lot about the South African game development scene and the African game scene as a way to, you get a little bit of press, but also you build a relationship. So you have to really think about different angles you can approach getting marketing and press and being interesting in the email.
Right. So takeaway here is try to say something interesting. Yeah, this is maybe obvious, but you'd say a lot of emails are pretty boring. That's what we've heard. Yeah. Okay, 4th category, personalization.
And this is something, if you've ever seen anything about email, you've heard before. But real personalization is not just, "Hi, Katie," followed by a cut and pasted press release. And this is something we've all done. This is a direct quote. Don't do it, please. All right. For example, real personalization, I can tell you a wonderful story. I was at E3 showing our game, and I saw a beautiful man, across the hall. And I said, "I know this man." And it turns out he had reviewed Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Rock Clock app, which is an app which allows you to wake up at the exact same time as The Rock every single day. And he had reviewed this for some magazine, and was also an IGN UK journalist. So I went up to him and said, "Sir, aren't you the man who reviewed the Rock Clock app?" And he was like, "Yes, mental that someone remembered that article, but very cool." He didn't write about the game in that moment. A few months later, at Gamescom, he saw the game, remembered the story, remembered me, and we ended up being in an IGN video. So that's what real, genuine personalization looks like in terms of knowing people.
Yeah, it's genuine because you can't fake that knowledge, right?
Yeah, it's not about just like scrolling through someone's Twitter once. Another example of the story, at PAX East, we were pitching for press. Cut that person out of your life. Answer the phone. Email me. Okay. Thank you for this brief interlude. Anyway, we were at PAX East. There was 5 hours of sending emails, and I was like tired. I was like, okay, I got to email this guy, Greg Miller, former IGN journalist, kind of funny. That's the company he runs. And so I just, he had this beautiful thing, a body positive phrase he used to say. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use this because I've been following his work for ages. So I just put it in the subject line. I was like an African team fat game dev from at PAX East, plus a world-deforming and atmospheric solid indie puzzler. Team fat is this phrase he used to say. He appreciated it so much, he tweeted it out. Now that's how you title a fucking PR email to his 1.3 million followers. And that resulted in him coming playing the game, making a video about it. You can do it.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, spend time getting to know the people you email.
Yeah.
So Stephanie Chan from VentureBeat mentioned that her cats. If you mention her cats in your pitch, that grabs her attention. And a contact from Google Play got this cat press release.
All in meows.
All in meows. And it says, P.S. I have pasted the original press release below too, just in case you need any more information. Great.
Yeah, and we have already started to implement this technique. I sent an email to the journalist and said, your cats plus something. And the response was immediately, good job with that subject line. So this is confirmed.
Confirmed.
To work.
Yes. So this, of course, can go into various directions. This is, I think, a very well-targeted personal email. Again, by Thomas, that PR professional. He sent this to a YouTuber who he knew really loved Microsoft Paint. And so he just, on top of his really slick stuff, he just painted some garbage. And it worked. So yeah, that's a thing. Think about that.
Yeah, and another journalist told us that they're really glad when you pay attention to them as a person outside of the inbox scene. Like she said, she's glad when a developer reaches out after they've tweeted or retweeted about their game, because it really feels like you're paying attention to them and what they're doing, and you cold pitch them after they've retweeted your tweet. It makes sense.
But be wary, because as cute as it is to say you're a fan of some streamers or a YouTuber's channel, some streamer told us that don't say it unless you mean it. And I think what he meant with that was that you shouldn't necessarily tell them you're a fan, but you should really show them. And I think the example of Team Fat, your previous subject line, is actually a really good takeaway from that, or a good example of that. So the takeaway here is that you need to be, that real personal emails need genuine interactions. Good emailing is about the existing outside of the inbox, right?
Yeah, you want to interact with people on social media in person, know who they are, so that you can have genuine interactions with them over email.
Yes, over email, of course.
Of course, the only medium.
Okay, 5th out of 6, style and formatting. Now you can go completely bonkers over this, but I think this is this game is called Runbow,
yes.
Which is a racing over a rainbow, I believe. So for this, it made a lot of sense. But what can you learn from this, right? Well, there's of course a lot of style in emails, and again, we're referring to the journalist Kate Gray. She was very specific about one thing, which is emojis. And she said a couple of really good things. Some people, if they see an emoji, they think, "Oh, goddamn millennials." She also said, if there's an emoji in the subject line, I'll read it. Always have emojis. Well, she kept on. There's actually way more quotes that I would take off the slide because they wouldn't fit. But Rami Ismail, who we also interviewed, he said, if there's an emoji, instant delete. So you have to think about this.
Yeah, or perhaps don't email Rami Ismail.
Yeah.
Another thing Kate said is that all caps is the emoji of people who don't want to use emojis.
Yes.
Because this comes off as shouting. So
yes.
it's also something to consider.
Yes. Okay, anyway. Don't go overboard on emoticons or cheeky jokes. This is a quote from one of our platform contacts, at least at first. So, once you get to know them.
Yeah, unless your game is about emojis, and then it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, there's more to be said about tone.
Yes. You want to be friendly and casual and not too demanding. And John Carnage, head of Twitch content, said, you'll get more with honey than with vinegar. So just think about your tone in those emails as well.
Honey. Okay, there's one thing that people were very clear about.
Very clear, 100%.
Do not be a character from your game. Yar!
Except for pirates and...
no, except for cats.
Except for cats, yes, sorry.
You can be cats.
You can be cats.
Okay, so there's one thing that you should absolutely not do. Some people will do this to me all the time, which is spell my name wrong. I have 2 A's in my name. It's very confusing. If I get those emails, I will always passively aggressively respond by writing the other person's name wrong as well. Yeah, very painful.
Don't do it.
Very painful. Yeah, so like this is the direct quote from one of the caps shouting, a journalist saying, never ever get the name of the outlet wrong. holy crap, immediate turn off.
Immediate turn off.
You don't want to turn off,
Yeah.
you want to turn on. Okay, being bold, last category.
Very important. Okay, so another story. Back in the day of App Store reviews, things took about 2 weeks.
To pass review.
Yes, to pass review. And so our friend Owen Harris shipped a broken game and needed to push a patch release ASAP. So he emailed Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, directly. And 3 hours later, the patch was reviewed and released. And he got a lovely phone call from Tim's assistant.
I want this. This is the kind of support I want.
Yeah, you want to be bold, just go for it. Also, here's a photo of Tim and Adriaan. Sorry.
Yeah, I actually never tried to email Tim. But I have been bold in my emails asking for, which have actually led to serious opportunities. This is one example, I never asked anything from my contacts at Valve. And I just asked them, can I get like the biggest news marketing slot, one of those news images? And it worked, and it kind of surprised me, but it totally worked. And there's, actually, if I think about it, even my most profound collaborations happened that way too. For my mobile dancing game Bound, and I wanted to work together with the Dutch National Ballet. I don't think there's any bigger prestigious ballet there. I just emailed them, and oh wait, this email's in Dutch. Sorry about that.
That's the original. Sorry.
Yeah, this very, very directly led to the most amazing collaboration in my life. And this happened to other developers as well. Some stories, one particular by Nicolay Barbecue, who said he emailed the creators of Rick and Morty, and 1 year later they released a content update in collaboration with those guys. So that's pretty cool.
But also flashback to the best email ever written. Be bold, it'll work.
And sometimes you can use other people's fuck-ups. We all get, I think, if you've released a game, you get those emails by like people who want free keys, and they try to look like journalists. You know what works? I recently discovered this. If you tweet about it or you email the people who they're sort of impersonating, it totally works. This guy is actually one of the people behind Rock Paper Shotgun that someone was trying to impersonate. So, totally worked. Okay. That's all the tips that we have for you today.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to the email manifesto. I'm sorry, I mean the...
Email festo, yes. Okay. Very important.
You have it all in front of you.
You have it. Emails people respond to.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, let's hear that paper
let's hear
flutter.
the paper rattle. Rattle your papers,
great.
Everybody.
Yes,
Thank
great.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
You want it to be very short. You want it to have genuine personalization, a perfect subject line, one expressive image. Be bold, but not demanding. That's it. That's our manifesto. Here's a selection of GIFs that didn't make it into the presentation, but we want to show you. Yes, next, thank you. Let's look at her face, Chrissy Teigen. She's very into video games. This is our favorite, though. We wanted this for the fraud section. This is not actually a person. Wait for it. If you need any hints on how to get out of work, this is it. Thank you to all the wonderful people who participated to this talk in no particular order, but you know there's a particular order you do.
And also, a lot of people contributed a lot more than we could show you today. So there will be another, a big blog post, I think.
Huge.
Massive.
Multi-year series.
Yes, it's going to be great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hope it was useful.